Hey there, friend. Welcome to the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Warner. This podcast is all about taking a few moments for yourself and reconnecting to the amazing woman behind the title of mom. You have so many plates spinning at any given time between your kids, your partner, your job, maintaining a household, etc., etc. But where does taking time just for you play into that? Let's spend some time together, you and me, right now. We're going to connect, tune in, and tap into what makes us the incredible woman that we are. We'll nurture ourselves so that we can pour into those who can count on us. We'll also hear from other moms to learn about the ways in which they've tapped into alignment in their own motherhood journeys. Let's roll. We're having a mom moment. All right, welcome friends. I'm so glad you could join us for this week's episode, and I'm so excited to have on my oldest friend, Michelle. She's my ride or die, my BFF, the one who has supported every wild idea I've ever had, including this podcast. We met on the school bus on our first day of 7th grade back in 1998. I was the new girl in town, and she immediately called dibs on me as her friend, and I am forever grateful that she did. We've been through it all together in our last 25 years of friendship. She and I now get to raise our girls together, which has been a blast, but her path into motherhood has had some twists and turns. I'm excited for her to share her story with you today. Hey, friend.
Hi.
Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'd love for you to walk us through your journey. You've got two beautiful girls now, but can we rewind back to the beginning of your motherhood story and where it all started?
Sure. I had my first daughter, Olivia, in 2016. She was born with arthrogryposis multiplex congenita, which is a condition where your joints and muscles are stiff. So she was kind of born frozen. She was with us for 6 months, but eventually passed away. We lost her in August of 2016.
Do you want to talk any more about that and what that was like? Because I know you had no idea leading into delivery that you were going to have anything but quote unquote perfect healthy baby. So once she was here, you were kind of thrown into this whole new experience of motherhood.
Yeah, Olivia having arthrogryposis was a complete surprise. I went in for an emergency C-section, and when I came out, I was handed a Post-it note with the word arthrogryposis on it. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
I immediately took to deep diving into the internet, which is, as we all know, the worst idea ever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But all that research led to some good conclusions, and I was able to feel like I was at least helping her.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone who maybe ends up walking a similar journey where you either have a diagnosis before birth or you were kind of thrown into it as soon as baby arrives? Do you have any advice or recommendations for helping someone navigate that journey?
Being a medical mama is definitely hard. It is probably the hardest part of this journey for me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you're walking a path that, even though you have the same diagnosis as someone, it's different. It's always different with any diagnosis. The best thing you can do is just breathe. Take it day by day, do your research, and follow your gut.
And I just want to add a layer on top of all this too. Michelle and I have been friends forever, but our friendship had been long distance for a long period of time. And Michelle lived in Texas when all of this was going on, with her husband, and that's it. Her family was back here in Michigan, where we're from originally. I was in North Carolina. So on top of having this wildly unexpected journey, she wasn't alone, but physically she was almost alone. So what's that like?
Honestly, the first month was really hard. And then when Olivia eventually got transferred to Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, and we got a room at the Ronald McDonald House, and I found a group of moms there, and our kids didn't have the same diagnosis. We didn't have the same things going on, but we all kind of found a little something in everyone's story that we could connect with, and we became friends. And even if it was just grabbing a coffee or celebrating something that happened with their child that day, it made it easier to go through the process.
Do you think there are ways for people to connect, maybe if they're not staying in Ronald McDonald House? I know you spent a lot of hours in the NICU. Are there ways to connect with other people there if you don't have the Ronald McDonald House experience?
One of the best things I did once I got Olivia's diagnosis is I went to Facebook and I typed it in the search bar, and immediately all these groups popped up. And there were
Mhm.
support groups, there were groups of moms of kids that have her condition, there were groups for teens and adults, and there were just a wealth of resources of people I could talk to and people I could connect with and ask questions, and being able to have those people to look at and look up to and go, okay, it's gonna be all right. Look, they had the same, this was similar. I can do this.
Yeah, that's huge. And I know, Olivia's story in the physical sense has ended, but I know you've maintained some of those connections even now, all those years later, right?
Yeah, my husband still attends the arthroporosis conference every year. They have one in the summer, and they get together and medical professionals come in and talk to the new parents, and the kids have a little summer camp, and some of the older individuals just enjoy being around people like them.
Hmm.
It's the 1 week a year they get to be around people that are like them, and they don't have to have the stares or worry.
Yeah, that's so great. And I imagine for, a lot of the different conditions out there, especially some of these that are more unheard of, I feel like if there's a Facebook group for this, there's probably groups out there for all sorts of things. So just, the recommendation of, hey, and maybe instead of Google, pop into Facebook and start that way.
Definitely give us a more uplifting view of what the future held as opposed to what Google was providing.
Right. I think too with Misha, that gives you an opportunity to see what life would look like, down the road.
Yeah, I often think about what our life would look like had Olivia lived, and what, what would today be? And
Hmm.
honestly, I don't know that our life would be anything of what it is right now.
Hmm.
We were looking at a life full of full-time care, nurses in our home. Olivia had a trach and she was going to get a G tube. So she was going to need a lot of support.
Hmm. How do you feel about all of that? I know you and I have had that conversation before a lot of times, but I think for anyone listening who may be walking this path right now or is in the very beginning of this path, I mean, how do you feel? How have you found beauty in the after, knowing what you know now?
I love Olivia. She is my baby, but I think she was sent here to teach us something. I think we learned what we needed to from her, and
Hmm.
it opened our eyes, and I don't think the world's better without her, but I think we are.
Hmm. I think the world, at least the world that I'm a part of in our circle, is better for her having been here. Of course, we miss her and wish she was still here with us, but I think this is a great opportunity to segue into the opportunity that Olivia's life did provide for you and kind of where you're at now.
Yeah, I think having Olivia taught me how to be a fierce mom, how to fight for my children and stand up for them and advocate for them. And that's something I didn't know I was going to need in the future, but
Hmm.
really happy Liv taught me those lessons early on. So I'm definitely using those.
For sure. You are a hell of a mama bear in the best way. So, can we talk a little bit about what motherhood looks like for you now and how you ended up with the children you do have now?
So after Olivia, we decided we still wanted kids, and we
Hmm.
went to the doctors and we did all the tests, and they said we had an 80% chance of the exact same thing happening again.
Hmm.
And that just wasn't a risk we were willing to take. That was a lot on us mentally, and we just honestly didn't think we could do it.
Hmm.
Not that we couldn't take care of a child like Olivia, we just didn't think it was something we could mentally get through.
Hmm.
So it took us a few years to mend our hearts and get our thoughts together, and eventually we looked into adoption. It wasn't really something we were very into at first. So we looked into IVF for a minute, and we looked into surrogacy, and ultimately we just kind of put a pin in it. We didn't really know where we wanted to go with this, and we just really were unsure of the next step in our journey. When we got a phone call out of the blue that someone my cousin knew had a family that had fallen on hard times and they were looking to adopt out 2 children. So it took us about 2 years to get through the whole adoption process for the girls to move into our house. And they moved in 4 days before Christmas 2019. And it was the most amazing Christmas ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took us another 2 years, thanks to COVID, to get to the point where we could actually adopt them and they could be ours forever.
Mm-hmm. What does life look like now? You've got these 2 girls, you had Olivia, and we've talked about this before. I think had it not been for Olivia, you wouldn't have your beautiful girls now. But can we talk a little bit about how that mama bear skill set that you gained with Olivia a little bit? Are you comfortable sharing a little bit about how you've had to use that with your girls now and just advocating for them and their needs?
So when we adopted the girls, we thought everything was fine, and they are. They're beautiful. They're smart.
Yes,
They're you could ask for.
They're awesome.
Definitely. About a year into them living with us, we kind of realized something was wrong with the little one. So we were out with a friend, and we had our toddlers walking next to each other. And I remember looking at her kid, and I'm like, man, her kid walks really weird. But I'm too shy to say anything, so I just let it go. But thankfully my friend is a little more outspoken, and she's like, so she told me, no, your baby walks a little weird. Oh, okay, cool.
Gotta love the honesty.
I was like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, my other 2 walked like this one. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So that honest conversation led me to some doctor's appointments, and we eventually found out that our little one, Allison, was diagnosed with spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Basically, it just affects her legs. A little slower when she walks, and her feet hurt. She has leg braces now, but getting to the point where we could get leg braces and get her all the therapy she needs has been a real hassle. It's a lot of work, and there's a lot of advocating to get her there.
Absolutely. I remember you getting to the point with was it the neurologist's office where you were just basically like virtually banging down their door trying to get answers from her MRI to get the answer that you were looking for. And how does having this technical diagnosis, like how has that changed things for you? Besides, I know you've been busy with her appointments and things like that, but what has that been like from looking for answers and then receiving this diagnosis?
Well, going into adoption, my husband kind of had a soft spot for kids with disabilities. But me, I was pretty adamant that I didn't want that life. That wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted to go have fun with my kids. I didn't want to sit in doctors' offices and fight for them all the time. But unfortunately, life had its own plans, and that's where we're at. And we do what we need to do, and I couldn't imagine my life without her.
And I will say, from the outside looking in, I think you guys have so much fun. Michelle's always my one in my life where I look, I'm like, you're so busy and you're always doing all the things, and I'm exhausted just watching you. But I don't think there is any shortage of fun going on in your family.
No, we are always on the go. I swear, we're always doing something.
Always. So I think this is a good time to ask, when you're doing all the things, I know Allie for a while had a boatload of appointments every week, and you were juggling that with working full time. Let's not forget to mention that you do work full time on top of all of this. And then you've got activities, and your weekends are booked up with family events and, other things that your older daughter is involved in. How do you make any time for you in all of this? How are you reconnecting with yourself while keeping all the plates spinning?
Honestly, the first few years of the girls being here, there was no mom time. It was just go, 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 get everything done. And I was lacking in joy for myself. I didn't have any time set aside to make sure I was okay. But eventually I got Ariel into Scouts, which is something that I did as a kid, and I really enjoyed it. So we've been getting into Scouts pretty good lately, and Ariel's working at a summer camp this summer, and me and Allie go up and hang out in our camper, and being able to get away and do the things that made me happy at 14, I guess they still make me happy at 37.
I mean, I am not a camper, as you know. We are best friends, and she has been trying to get me to camp in a tent for 25 years, and it will probably never happen at this point. But is it being outside? Is it just the environment that, where camp is, and it kind of feels like coming home? Or what do you think it is for you? Just so that maybe somebody listening who's going, oh my gosh, I know I need some time and space for myself, but I don't even know where to begin. Like, what are the things about it for you that are like restorative?
Honestly, going to camp for me feels like going home. It's where I was most happiest as a kid. It's where I found myself, where I learned all life's hard lessons. And I wanted to share that with my kids. And I love that my kids are learning those same values and skills. And I love that we can be outside and play, and we don't have to have electronics glued to our hands.
Mm-hmm. I think the importance of play, we always say for our kids, I think we all know that it's so important, but I think it's important for us too. And play may look different. I am not one to, go sleep in a tent overnight, but I do love some nature and getting outside. And I think inviting play into our lives as adults is more important than we realize. And I think if everyone could just spend a little bit of time just kind of following what feels good and what kind of sparks your interest, and go give it a go, and take a walk outside, pick up a rock, look at a flower. I mean, anything, just start somewhere, right?
Absolutely. I think my husband buying me an ATV this winter was probably the best thing ever for me. Being
Mm-hmm.
able to hop on and go right off into the woods by myself and take 10 minutes to just be out in the middle of the woods by myself with nothing but my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm just laughing at the visual of you being like, I'm out, hopping on your ATV and riding off into the wooded sunset. It's so Michelle, and I think we all have those moments as moms where we're like, I'm gonna go. It's time, I'm leaving now.
Well, then we bought the little one, a little Power Wheel ATV, and Dad souped it up. So don't worry, she's 10 feet behind.
Yeah, you may need to unplug that battery so you don't lose your few moments for yourself. Because while it is so important, I think, one, to share the things that you love with your kids and play alongside your kids, in the ways that you've talked about. But it is important to get that alone time too. It's hard to have them glued to you all the time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. So can we talk a little bit about friendship, since, we go way, way back? We all know it's hard to make mom friends. And I am so very lucky that, we kind of got to walk through this together, even though it's been a very hilly journey. But I feel so lucky that now we can, raise our kids together. But it's not the easiest because we do live, 2.5 hours away from each other. So can we talk a little bit about like how we foster our own friendship in this wild and crazy phase of life?
Yeah, I think it's just important that we take the time to check in on each other and put the effort in.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anything major, but just like checking in, and I think we just like constantly have a text thing going. And I think that is one thing I have COVID to thank for. I feel like starting in 2020, you and I started talking even more because we could text each other throughout the day because of work. My job went remote, and I know your position changed in a way where you didn't have people staring at you, and work was slow, and we were able just to kind of like talk all the time, which has been awesome. But I know not everybody has that. But yeah, like you said, just checking in on each other and making the effort to, if it's been a few days, like, hey,
how's it going over there? And it doesn't mean anything's wrong with the other person. Michelle is very, very busy and always doing a million things. So I know usually on the weekend, I don't really hear from her, which is fine, but we always try to connect several times throughout the week over text. And sometimes it's just like sending a meme or like sending a TikTok or, something like, hey, I know she'll like this, or I know she'll get a kick out of it. Now, actually seeing each other, we have to get a little more strategic, right?
For sure. It's funny now that you talk about our phone calls is how they've changed through the years. Do you remember we used to have phone calls every Sunday and it was like a dedicated hour? Like we were going to talk for an hour, and now we're like, hey, I'm on the way to the grocery store. I got 10 minutes. How about it?
Was it pre-children or hour-long talks? Was that pre-children?
Yes.
Yeah, right. And it was so easy. It was just nice to have something scheduled. But yeah, sometimes I call Michelle like, I'm on the way to pick up the baby from daycare. I have 10 minutes by myself. You want to talk?
And it's not even that I'm alone. Now it's like this weird three-way conversation with a toddler in the back seat saying, hi, Aunt Shan.
Yeah, what did we learn the other day? That she has figured out how to tell your car how to call me, which I think is hilarious. I love it so much. Yeah. And it's fun, but sometimes you just need to have your mom time just to talk about, things. I will say, you have a very busy calendar, but you're very, very good at being like, I want to see you. Here's a screenshot of my calendar. When are you available? The weekends with nothing, or the weekends I'm available. And that's how a lot of our plans, have gotten started. We did take an overnight back in February of this year, which was awesome. Michelle had helped me with a whole bunch of, life things. And I was like, we need this. We're going to take some time. And we met in the middle it was about an hour, a little bit of an hour and change drive, just her and I, just for like the day and night. And we like rented a hotel room and like had a lunch where Michelle drank a margarita the size of her head.
Not bad.
But it was just good. I mean, honestly, looking back, like the circumstances were not ideal. I mean, remember the hot tub that everyone else in the state of Michigan apparently had the same idea to rent a hotel room so they could get in the hot tub. Yeah, but
I think it was so needed.
It was so needed.
We should totally have like 20 minutes to ourselves with our best friend.
What was the frequency? Because whatever it is, I think we should up it. Yeah, I think, and I think we're lucky that our husbands are just like, okay. I mean, and we're not outlandish with our requests, but we're like, hey, this date is on the calendar. I'm going to leave in the morning and I will come back the following morning. Are you okay? And I was able to work it out. I think that was that weekend where my mom actually took her older daughter overnight. So it was a little bit of a less burden on him being left with two kids, but we still went. I don't feel bad about it. I don't regret a thing. I want to do it again, and just
it's nice that our kids are about the same age, so we can take them along for most of our adventures and they all get along. And
I will say too, Michelle always jokes, you got to get yourself a 14-year-old. And it's like, yeah, like it is amazing watching her oldest with my oldest, who is 6, and then her youngest, who just turned 5. Right. So they both love Ariel, and Ariel is so good. She just like hangs out with them and she's like, I got it. Don't worry about it. And then it does give us a few minutes to like have adult conversation, which is awesome. So yeah, it has been fun. And I think we're going to see each other next weekend, which is great. But again, it's very intentional. Michelle initiated this one where she's like, I miss you. Let's hang out, because we're gearing up for summer here. It's already halfway through April, and I know she's going to disappear on me for the summer, and she'll be farther away and her cell phone service will be less reliable. And I won't get, my constant barrage of texts and interaction, which I love so much. So she reached out and said, hey, can we meet somewhere in the middle again, with the girls for a day activity, which I appreciate her doing that because I'm not the best event planner. But yeah, you just have to be super intentional. And I think really nurture those friendships that you do have. I think if you have someone in your life who is also a mom and you like them, like just hold fast to that relationship and continue to nurture it, because whatever you're going through, even if they look like they have it all together on the surface, they're probably going through, the similar day-to-day mom stuff that you are. Okay, I have one final question for you. Since we're gearing up for the 5-day Rock Your Maternity Leave workshop. I know yours obviously did not go as you had expected. Do you have anything that you would mind sharing about something you wish you knew before taking your leave, or if you have any tips for any moms planning theirs, or do you have any tips for someone who, they thought their maternity leave was going to look one way and then it ends up looking drastically different?
So when I had Olivia, I started my maternity leave 2 weeks before her birth because I was on hospital bed rest.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time my maternity leave ended, she was still in the NICU.
Mm-hmm.
So I took up all of my time. And the company I was working for at that time didn't offer FMLA. So I just had to go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to do that over again, I would probably still do it the same, honestly. It was worth it every moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, on top of everything, this is what's hard. I feel like, unfortunately, and this is not getting political, but I don't feel like the system was designed with us in mind, with working mothers in mind. And you had a C-section. So on top of everything else, your body had gone through a major surgery. And I think, didn't you say were you able to get a couple more weeks because of that, or no?
I was supposed to get 8 weeks, but my doctor kept trying to put me back at 6 weeks. So I had a panic attack in her office.
Yeah.
Then I got to them.
Look, you know what? I think the lesson here is, if you need to have a panic attack in your doctor's office to get a couple extra weeks, and I know in whatever year it is, 2023, incisions for like the actual length of the incision for a C-section, like they're getting smaller and smaller. I know when I was born as a C baby, they cut my mom hip to hip, and that really isn't a thing anymore, except in Michelle's case, where she had this baby who was very stiff. And like you said, I think you used the term, they had to gut me like a fish.
Yep.
So, that's a huge recovery. So,
yes.
yeah.
And you're supposed to be laying in bed, resting and healing after a surgery, not running back and forth to NICU every time they call saying your child's coding.
Yeah.
All those didn't help the healing process at all.
I know. So I think if anything, a listener can take away from this, would just be, advocate for yourself. Push that doctor if you have to, if your body needs that extra time, especially. I think everyone's bodies need more time than we're given here in the States, but you got to learn to advocate for yourself very early on, because no one else is going to do it for you.
And unfortunately, we couldn't take maternity leave after we adopted the girls. There are very few businesses that offer that in cases of adoption.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Were you able to take unpaid time? Please remind me. I can't remember, because it was all around COVID and everything looked, wild anyway.
So the original plan was we were going to take a week and go to Disney and just have the time of our lives. But COVID hit right before all that. So we ended up with Zoom adoption. And we just kind of took the day off and enjoyed going to lunch and hanging out. And we went to the cider mill and just enjoyed the day together.
Mm-hmm. And there are, like the federal protections of the Family Medical Leave Act, where you can take 12 weeks unpaid, but there's a lot of criteria that have to be met. You have to be at the company for a year, and the company has to be a certain size, because I believe if it's under 50 employees and they don't even have to abide by that, it doesn't mean that they won't, but they don't have to. And it doesn't even guarantee that your job will be there waiting for you when you return. It just guarantees that you will have a comparable position with the same pay, is my understanding of how it works. And, that's great that you could take 12 weeks if you can, but not everyone has the luxury of 12 weeks unpaid, especially with the moving target of like an adoption date.
Fortunately, we have been able to take FMLA leave. I think I'm on my third one now.
Yeah.
But all been for Allison's medical care. And last summer she had double leg casts, trying to stretch her legs muscles out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really helpful just to be able to take a little extra time off to be with her and just make her comfortable and get her mind off of it a little.
Yeah, I think that's important. Can we talk about what that looks like a little bit, what the process is and how much time you did take and how that played out for you?
I took about 8 weeks of I think it's 10 or 12 that they make available to you. But I didn't really take the whole entire leave all at once. I just took shortened days and asked for them to be accommodating. You know, if my child is having a really hard day, I was able to leave in the middle of the day and go be with her.
So then you were still getting paid. It wasn't like a total unpaid situation.
Yeah, I at least worked 20 hours part-time
Mm-hmm.
instead of having a full-time job. So I still got my benefits and I still got a little money coming in.
Yeah.
But overall, I was able to be where I needed to be.
Yeah, I think that's great too. It's a great lesson in creativity and having, needs as a mom, but also having needs as far as being employed. So I think it's great for people to hear that there are ways that you can work around being completely without an income, because some is better than nothing. But of course,
Right.
you want to be there for your children when they need you.
But the problem is with kids that have complex medical issues, you might not know what's coming up. And now that I've taken that leave, I have to wait a full year before I can apply again.
Right.
So if it pops up in the next year, I just have to figure it out at that point.
Right. And I know you will. I know it's like daunting, but you've figured out everything this far, and you've done an amazing job at it. But there is, I think, an invisible load that moms are up against, especially moms of children with these complex medical issues. There's so much beneath the surface going on, and that's another thing that I didn't know about motherhood, was like the battles that I would have to fight behind the scenes before I would even get to work in the morning. There's so much going on behind the scenes. And then you have to show up as a working mom and be present and be an employee and meet expectations and deadlines and benchmarks and all the things.
Yeah, there's always so much going on and so many expectations for you that it is just hard.
It is hard. It is hard. And I think that's why it is so important that when you can, that you take that time for yourself, for sure, because you can't do it running on empty. I know there are days where, your tank is depleted, but if you can try to fill your tank as you go, a little bit each day, or a little bit each week, then you're going to set yourself up to be better prepared to handle the things that come at you. Because sometimes I know we've had those days where like, oh, one more thing happens, and then you're like, I just need to sit down and cry now. Like I'm going to need a moment. I might need to go cry in the bathroom, and then I will come back and pull it all together.
I think one of the most helpful things is just putting in something on the calendar, having something to look forward to, having something that you know is going to make you happy, gets you through those hard days.
I think that's so good. It sounds so simple, but yeah, plan it, slap it on the calendar. Because even if something comes up and you need to rearrange your plans, if it's been on the calendar already, at least you can go, okay, now I need to move this over here. It's still going to happen. It may not happen today or this weekend, but we're still going to do this because I've already in my mind committed that we're doing this thing. I think that's huge. When you may not be able to like plan something big, like what's something small? We're going to go do this thing and it's going to be fun and it's something that we can look forward to.
Like our zoo trip.
Mm-hmm.
We just planned a day and we're going to meet up and take the kids to the zoo. Who cares what happens there? They'll have fun. We'll talk.
Right. It does not have to be a big thing. And, I'm grateful that we live close enough. We used to live in separate states. So at least now we can meet in the middle. But if you've got someone, what we really miss, and we've talked about this before, is the Target friend. Like, I wish I could be like, I'm going to Target. Do you want to meet me there? I'll see you in 15 minutes. I think if you could carve that out in your life, if you've got someone local or whatever your equivalent to Target, the Target experience would be, I think is so nourishing for your soul as a mom.
Absolutely. Just being able to take 10 minutes and go do something that makes you happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think we need to break the cycle of like hashtag self-care. I took a bath today. Like, no. Like your bathing is basic hygiene. That's not self-care. That is not nourishing your soul. Like, yeah. And it's not going to the grocery store alone either. Like, that's not it. And I think we need to normalize, like, I am going to go do this thing. I'm going to go get my nails done or whatever it is, and normalize it and make it part of your routine or whatever, at least to the point where your husband knows that you've got this time that you need for yourself. Your children see you caring for yourself, and and it's just there. And I think that's so powerful, especially we're both moms of girls. I think laying the groundwork of taking care of yourself and your own interests and spending time with your friends and letting them see all of that and seeing you be healthy in that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of responsibility as girl moms, aside from all the things that come with having girls. And I know Michelle is just in the thick of it with a teenager. But I think we have a responsibility to them to show them what healthy and fulfilled moms look like. This has been so insightful and so awesome. I know your story up close and personal, but I'm glad you could share it with everyone else.
You're welcome.
Thanks again to my BFF Michelle for joining us on this week's episode. Here are some key takeaways. 1. Being a medical mama, even if you share a diagnosis with a group of other people, is a very unique path. The best thing you can do is breathe, take it day by day, do your research, and always follow your gut. 2. Learn to advocate early, not only for your children, but for yourself as well. No one else can do that for you. 3. Community is essential on the journey of parenting a child with complex medical issues. Finding a network, either in person or online, can help you process your experiences through a more human, less medical lens. 4. And this is perhaps my favorite takeaway that I wasn't expecting. Pause, and life may deliver something beautiful in the interlude. What you're seeking can find you in unexpected and beautiful ways. And 5. Intentionality in motherhood is key. It's essential in creating time for yourself and in fostering friendship. Be deliberate about connecting with your friends and schedule the space for kid-free time for yourself and time with those who nurture your soul. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Did you know the Rock Your Maternity Leave 5-day free challenge is happening the week of May 15th? We're going to spend 5 days together live to create a plan for not only the transition for your job, but also, and most importantly, for you. Whether it's your first baby or your third, every maternity leave is different, and you deserve a plan that will honor your baby's needs, your job's needs, but most importantly, your needs. All of the details and the link to sign up are available over on my Instagram as well as in the show notes. If you're past this phase, but someone you know has a maternity leave in their future plans, I'd be so honored if you'd share the link with them. Until we meet again, come hang out with me on Instagram at Having a Mom Moment. This podcast is just for us moms and mamas to be, so drop me a DM if there's something you'd like to hear about in a future episode. Until next time, mama, remember, you are loved, you are amazing, and if no one has said it today, I am so proud of the badass you are. Bye!